whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hook of force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare hare mai, o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody, gather up close everybody. Kani move that body, kani move that body.
Tēnei a matsuri ki kua eke ki te urunga tapu, ki te urunga kakitea, ki te urunga kārawea, tū te whiwhianuku, tū te whiwhiarangi, tū te whiwhi ki a Taringa e mihi nei tēnā koutou e ngā iwi, nau mai, hara mai, nau mai, hoki mai ki te punua pāho o Taringa. And here I am, holding it down in the bustling metropolis of Te Awamatu. And, ngai Taringa, I'm the only one in the studio. How about that? Kua hoki mai au ki te podcast. Next minute, I'm the only one here. But don't worry e te whānau, I've got Paraone on the Zoom.
Tēnā koutou e te iwi, and you know, give it up. Koina e te wā tuatahi, nā Erica te mihi.
Yeah, give it up. Mihi
and
mai,
that was a great
mai.
mihi e te tuahine, e mihi ake ana, and you know, mānawatia matariki.
Mānawatia matariki.
Mānawatia matariki, and e whakamānawa atu nei a hau ki a koe. Tēnā koe.
Thank you, tēnā koe. Well, you know, I better not hold up this charade. Paraone wrote it for me. So, thank you, Paraone. I was just the voice to the words.
And a great voice you were. And I'm sure our kai tautoko te māngai pāho and irirangi te motu would have just loved that mihi along with all of Ngai Taringa and our new listeners.
I see what you did there, just... I missed out the mihi to our kai tautoko. Thank you.
Yes, and coming at you.
This is a bit like on the pie, when someone gets up to do their kōrero and then they miss something out, and then the waiata tautoko people come in and then whisper the little bits they forgot in their ear. That's what just happened there. A modern day context of that.
Oh, tika.
Anyway, yeah, te iwi. So we've got a pretty cool kaupapa today. It's going to be all about our illustrious main host, Paraone Gloyne. So I'm pretty much the kai ui, and we have Paraone here. He's our manuhiri, but not our manuhiri. I'm going to be asking him lots of stuff. But before we get to that, I'm going to throw it over to Paraone to give us a kiwaha.
Tēnā koe e tuahine. O tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou. I had a kiwaha. And then, iau e whakaro na kia mohea mai koutou. We actually set this show up to be a Patapatai.
Yes.
And in the wairua of Taringa,
Aye.
usually it's me, but this time it was Erica. Because I actually felt the wairua of this as well, Erica, I whakai atu au. And she had the idea, you know what? After our last show, she came away with some whakaro about me. And she thought she wanted to make this show, or give an opportunity for her to ask me pātai about my life, I think. Koina te whakaro ne, Erica.
Aye.
And before we get to any pātai, I te whakaro au ki etahi I tōku ao. So I was thinking of, you know, people that have played a major part in my life and brought me into existence.
Mm.
So e whakaro anai ki taku mama.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I mate taku mama te kaumā whātau, ka mahu e nei.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been 14 years. And my mum, taku mama, her name was Yvonne. Her Māori name was Te Waingongo, and her nickname was More.
So what? Te Waingo?
Te Waingongo.
Te Waingongo.
Yeah, Te Waingongo was her tana ingoa Māori. Tana ingoa Pākehā was Yvonne. But her nickname was More.
More.
More. And because she...
It's a more.
It's a more. And my mum would stand up when that was sung at the pā.
Yeah.
In ngā pāti. But more means to be kami.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so my mum was like the first one in her generation, I think, to get all her teeth pulled out and get false teeth. So her nickname was More.
More.
Anyway, she didn't speak much te reo
Yes.
to me as a boy and growing up. When she had a few wines,
He mātanga.
well, not a mātanga, but she would definitely be quite ka rere te reo.
Yeah, yeah.
But one of the things she said when I was a little boy, when I was getting sleepy, she would say, kua koni koni o karu.
Isn't koni like shy?
I don't know, but koni koni means to move.
Okay.
And I always thought it was the look. I never actually looked the word up. So I was just thinking about this I te rānei. And I use it today when I see people that are tired. I say, kua koni koni o karu.
Kua koni o karu.
Yeah, kua koni koni o karu. And that's a memory I have of my mother. And then, you know, she would say that to me, and I think it would just make me more tired.
Yeah.
And I just thought it meant you got sleepy eyes.
Yeah.
But just recently, like 15 minutes ago,
Yes.
I looked up the word koni koni.
Okay.
Now on Te Aka, it's only got a couple of whakamārama there which don't make sense. But on the other dictionary I use, and I didn't look at pātaka kupu, and I should have, but the other one is wakareo, word stream, and koni koni means to rub.
Ah.
Yeah. So now
Yeah.
I sort of know, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're tired, nearly you rub your
You
eyes,
do, yeah.
and your eyes look like they've been rubbed.
Yeah.
So that's a kianga from my, it's not really a kiwaha, engari, it's an expression, one of the few that my mother used. So while she wasn't a fluent speaker, Mum definitely dotted te reo in her conversation and when she was speaking to us, because, you know, how she was brought up.
Yeah.
Another word she would use was parore.
Parore.
Parore. Now, parore means to sort of wander around.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Because I've heard it used in the context of a haere.
Yeah.
Parore haere.
Yeah, parore. But see, I only heard that word. We say parore, but I've heard other iwi, particularly tūhoi, they say karore.
Oh, yeah.
You know, always gone on the karore, kei te karore haere, whereas we say parore. And, you know, I heard my auntie use it as well, Auntie Uru o te Uru Whakarewa, who's like my second mum.
Yeah.
And also my tupuna, my kuia, parore. And another word she would use, if something was all sort of wiggly or messed up, it was perori.
Perori.
Yeah, yeah. So there's some little kupu and sentences that, while my mum wasn't a fluent speaker, she used te reo through our upbringing.
Yeah.
And that one reminds me of being a little boy, was kua koni koni o karu.
Kua koni koni o karu. That's definitely something I can use on all of my babies.
Yeah,
And myself.
yeah. And that's what sort of means you're getting sleepy, you know. But it's actually a verb. Well, I take it now. My interpretation of it is that, yeah, you've been rubbing your eyes look sleepy. Kua koni koni o karu.
Kua koni koni o karu.
Yeah.
Oh, ātāhua. So, as Paraone said, we're going with the Wairua again, and last week, wow, Matariki kaupapa nui. I'm sure many of you / everybody, we had quite a jam-packed week last week, and as you all know, we were at Ako Araro for our episode, where we've live streamed in front of an audience. That was pretty cool, eh?
It was tino kura watu.
Tino kōrawatu, there you go. Anyway, everyone who spoke there that I listened to was amazing. I came away from the expo like feeling like that was probably one of the best symposiums I've been to. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the focus on the first day of the kōrero was about whānau and how whānau have sort of instilled values of te ao Māori, te reo me ona tikanga within their whānau, and how they're basically succession planning. Some of the kōrero got me thinking, hey, Paraone actually didn't grow up as a first language te reo Māori speaking person. So I want to know, how did he get from someone like me, probably better than me though, to the te reo exponent that he is now? So let's go right to the start. What was your early life like? Now, I know you've spoken about it a lot in the past, that your tupuna, your nan, your kuia was like sort of your place where you would go and hear a lot of te reo spoken. But in your actual household where you lived and grew up, that was in Rotorua, right? What was the level of te reo there? Are your siblings into te reo as well?
Not then, but I always remember having something drew me to te reo te ao Māori. I always felt it. Like I have so many memories. You know, I remember when a lot of listeners, ngai Taringa, wouldn't even remember koha. Te karere only had, I think, 10 minutes back in the day, or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, and I would love watching te karere, and I didn't understand. I understood a couple of kupu that came out. And as I said, my mum, you know, would use te reo here and there.
Yeah.
But we always went back to the pā. Always. I have so many memories of going back to the pā and growing up. It wasn't the marae, it was always the pā. We're going to the pā.
Yeah.
Something's at the pā. And, you know, yourself, maybe he pērā anō koutou ko tō whānau's calling it the pā. And growing up with my cousins and things like that. So I didn't even know what there was Māori medium schools i era wā and kohanga reo till I was, you know, probably just going to intermediate.
Yeah. So you went to a mainstream. Well, there was only mainstream, right? In those times?
Yeah, I grew up, say, tupuke au i Rotorua.
Yeah.
I was born in Rotorua. I was the only one in my whānau not born in Tainui.
Oh. Are you the youngest?
Yeah, I'm the youngest. And I whānau mai au i te rā o te kapu o Merepane. I was born on Melbourne Cup Day.
Oh, that's why you've got such a swag dress style about you.
Yeah, and my grandfather wanted my mother to name me after a horse.
Yeah.
Who was the favourite that year in the Melbourne Cup. And then what happened, cut a long story short, he broke his leg and they shot the horse.
Oh.
So, lucky ka re taku māma i whakaingoa i au, i whakai ki te whakaro o taku koroua.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was my koroua. And again, my koroua died when I was 6.
Oh, yeah.
And I have memories of my koroua, his hat.
Yeah.
I've got a thing for hats because my koroua wore a fedora.
Yeah.
You know, all of them did. My koroua and his cousins, who were the koroua of our hapu at the time. There was my grandfather, Koro Brownie Heta, Koro Charlie Marshall, Koro Tomirangi Tūtia, Koro Moon. Those are the koroua I remember. And they at Koro Pou, they all had hats.
Yeah.
And they all looked gangster, you know?
Yeah.
And we weren't allowed to touch Granddad's hat.
Oh.
It was very tapu.
Yeah.
I remember using that word, that Granddad's hat is tapu.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why, I know it is, that I like fedoras, I like hats, because I saw my koroua wearing them. My granddad, we couldn't call him koro, his name was, we called him Granddad.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Granddad.
Yeah, Granddad.
Granddad's hat is tapu.
Yeah. And he always gave us a te reo lesson.
Oh, okay.
Mā oko taku cousin, my first cousin, which is Annette's brother, Kiriama, and we were very little, and he would get myself and Kiriama, and he would say, e pewhi ana koe. And I would say, e pai ana, and then he'd ask my cousin, same thing. So this was probably the first lesson I ever had.
Yeah.
I roto I te reo, ne?
Yeah.
And it was always, e pai ana, e pewhi ana koe. Well, one day he asked my cousin first, because my cousin would always copy my answer.
Right.
And one day he asked my cousin first, Kereama, e pewhi ana koe. Well, my cousin couldn't remember what to say.
Oh, man.
And he was like,
Oh my gosh. I've pretty much got the exact same story as you.
Yeah.
So I have this memory. We went back down to the marae. I don't know what it was for. We're at the marae and one of the pakeke there saw me and one of my cousins there and came up to us and asked both of us, or me first, I remember, kei te pēhea koe. And I knew what she was saying, and I knew that the answer was kei te pai. But I just remember freezing and not remembering how to answer. And then my cousin goes, oh, she doesn't know how to speak Māori. And then she was like, and then I'm being like, I know what I'm supposed to say, but it's just not coming out right now.
Yeah, well, that was my cousin.
Yeah.
So he ended up going, And my grandfather, my granddad's going, what? And he's like, and he starts crying.
Oh, ka aroha.
And my grandfather, he was lovely, but he was mangu.
Yeah.
And he had these red lips. But I remember him waking me up in the morning, he'd come in and go, your Muppets on. You know, Muppets was the only thing kids could watch on the early morning when I was little.
Yeah.
And I'd go watch the Muppets with him. I think in his last years, he wasn't very well. So I remember his bed being in the lounge at my nan's place.
Yeah.
Or their place. So yeah, koera taku karaua. But Leo was always around me and I was never sort of shoved away. You know, I hear stories of people being kids and they weren't to be seen.
Yeah.
The pa or around the paipai. But I always hung around the paipai. And my grandfather used to call me a blow ass.
Hi.
Well, I thought it was a compliment.
Yeah.
But now, you know, a blow ass is a whakaputa mōhio.
Ah.
It's probably because I was probably listening to all their stories, and that's probably why my granddad called me a blow ass. And I said to my mum one time, oh, granddad said I'm a blow ass, mum. Thinking it's a compliment, engari. I think my grandfather was just being I te whakatoi mai taku koroua.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, my granddad and my kuia, my nan, they moved into town 1982, I think.
When you say town, do you mean Tawamutu?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
From the country, they were like the last ones to leave from there and come into town. It was quite a big move. And you know, my kuia, she spoke better Māori than English. And she was cooking on a fire right up until that time. And still getting water from the puna.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it took a while for my kuia to transition. And I remember a cousin telling me, my grandfather, because they had a safe, and some of you listening know what a safe is. It was what they stored their meat in. They called it a safe, and it hung outside.
Yeah.
Some flash safes were sort of like a part of the homestead, and it was like a cupboard that was on the outside of the whare, but the door was on the inside.
Yeah.
The outside had wire to stop flies, but it was to let the air go through.
Ah.
Anyway, so they had a safe. When they moved to town, they got a fridge.
Yeah.
And I remember my cousin saying, granddad said to him, oh, something's wrong with the meat. It tastes funny. And my cousin said, yeah, it's fresh.
As opposed to aged and dried.
Well, yeah, and you know, my cousin remembers the meat being green.
Oh, wow.
You know, they just cut bits of it off and, you know, paka it up or fry it up or whatever. You know, you'll have people with similar stories in their whānau throughout rural Aotearoa. So, you know, my grandparents were pretty old school.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And my kuia was very old school. Some might say she was colonised, but I think, no, she was very strict on the roles that kōtiro did when there were kōtiro at home and that the boys did. You know, so there were things that girls did, that women did, and there were things that boys did and things that men did.
Yeah.
And she was very particular too about bedding and things like that, like not touching. These are things I'm seeing now. It was ngā whakaaro was to do with tapu and things like that.
Yeah.
So you don't touch another person's bed. It's common sense really, but you get up in the morning, you don't get in your bed till you go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. If we had girls, the girl cousins come and stay, the boys would get to sleep on the couches, the girls would be down. It was tikanga things.
Because your karawa passed away when you were about 6, who became your, and how you said your nan was very sort of, there's a place for boys and a place for girls in terms of tapu. Who was your guidance then from the male perspective?
Well, they fell on my uncles.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you know, 2 of my uncles who would have been, you know, they were leaders, and I say that in humility, along with many of the others in our hapu, they passed away at a young age, you know, in their 30s, late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
You know, I think now myself and my cousins, these are the children of those uncles or 2, they've outlived their father.
Yeah.
But one, so other than those 2 uncles, which is my Uncle Puha and my Uncle Johnson, the other one is my Uncle Marerahi, his Uncle Tabs. And he was actually a nephew to my grandfather. But he was like a rock in our whānau, and he's a cousin to my mother.
Yeah.
So he was someone that I always sort of followed around growing up. And she'd some koro, along with my auntie, always shoot from the hip and things like that. So that's how I was brought up.
Yeah. Okay, going back to your school life. So last week, I went to Manu Kōrero, where I was the photographer. But then also, in one of the presentations done by the Ohia whānau at Ako Araro, Kōwhai talked about her upbringing with te reo, and that she talked about how she basically had nothing and then had the audacity to enter the Manu Kōrero competitions and do a 13-minute speech in a language that she didn't know. When you were doing these competitions, were you just like memorizing te reo, or how strong was your grasp of te reo that you were able to put into your speeches?
When I went to intermediate, pirangi o te mihi ki taku pauako I au I te kurataka wainga, which was te morihutanga o ngā iwi o Iharaira Tūhua. And he was from te hapu o Ngāti Kuri o Ngai Tūhoi, and he was affectionately known as Piwai. So he was my pauako at intermediate. And really, he formalised my knowledge of te reo.
Oh, okay.
He formalised the teaching of te reo, because up until then, it was around me. The same at Ōwhata, I had great teachers like Auntie B, Phyllis Tangitu, and others. But no formal learning. But when I was in the Reorua, bilingual at intermediate, nāna.
Cool.
When I went to Rotorua Lakes High, we had a bilingual unit there. And that's why I have a lot of time for, I don't want to call it mainstream, but now I call it kura kaupapa Pākehā. The reality is, not all of our tamariki can go to wharekura and kura kaupapa.
Yes, I'm definitely learning about that.
That's a reality. I mean, I'm a huge supporter of sending them there.
Yeah.
Of our tamariki going there. But in some places, there's just no option.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a big thing for my parents, I believe, to send me to Reorua.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a new thing then. We only had Rua Mata and Rotorua.
Oh.
I wanted to go to Ruatoki.
That was a bit out of the way.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to go to Ruatoki. But by the time I got to high school, my teachers, Hukarere Mohi, the late Hukarere Mohi, who was Mita Mohi's wife.
Ah, cool.
Both mentors. Auntie B again, she taught social studies. And then Rangitihi Pene, he was really head of department. And Koronapi, he was our toy teacher.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. By the time I got to high school, I was able to sort of articulate my thoughts down on paper. And Rangitihi says, anei tētai kaupapa ko Manu Kōrero, anei mau tētai kaupapa e kōwhiri, pick one of these kōrero and write. So I did. And he fixed my speech up.
Cool.
I didn't know what Manu Kōrero was. And then nāna taku kōrero I whakatika. And he added some bits in there, both of us together. And then we went to Murupara.
Yeah.
And hika mā. Ka tai mātou ki Murupara, and the pōwhiri was at Pai Noiho.
Oh, yeah.
And then the whakataitai was at Rangatai College. And I nā te mahi a ngā Māori I reira.
Yeah.
There was this whole world I was unaware of, was Manu Kōrero.
Right. Would this have been one of the first?
Was the first Manu Kōrero I ever attended.
Yeah.
And I was in.
Yeah.
And my section, I was in Rāwhiti I Haka.
Yeah.
And I remember we were in the library. And it was packed.
That's the junior Māori
Yeah,
section?
ko te junior Māori tēnei.
Yeah.
And anyway, cut a long story short, I won. I tōhau.
Wow.
Didn't think I was going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember someone saying, and ka whakarongo pē taku hoa tāmati ki tēnei, but I didn't know Manu Kōrero, but I won that one. I heard people saying, I piti ia tāmati. This is Tāmati.
Yeah.
Taku hoa Tāmati wāka.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Tāmati was because I didn't even know Manu Kōrero.
Yeah.
And in those days, because I was in Te Arawa, the whole area was considered Waiariki.
Oh, yeah.
So there would be Te Arawa and Mātātua and Tauranga Moana as well.
Yeah, Tauranga Moana, yeah.
And one big whakataitai.
Waiariki, yeah.
Now it's all separate.
Yeah. I remember being at school and sort of manu kōrero and being in the kapahaka team sort of went hand in hand. At that time at school, were you part of kapahaka as well?
Aye. And you know, I paurio because we had a van.
Yeah.
We only took a van load. I think we went over on Matua Rangiti. I still call him Matua today. We went over on his van, I think. And we got there and all these schools, they had buses.
Buses, wow.
We had a van, I think there was 5, 6 of us.
Yeah.
Every other could have had these big, huge waiata prepared to do for their, you know, hei tautoko I o rātou kai kōrero.
Yeah.
But, you know, we went over humble. And then imuri tērā, cut a long story short, I haere ki o Tautahi. And that's how I met Leon. Leon Blake was in my section.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I was fortunate to win the national competition. That was 1994.
Holy, so that was your first year at manu kōrero. You went straight from winning the regional competition to winning the national competition. That's amazing.
What was amazing for me, I still feel e rongo tonu au I nei when we pulled up to Painoiho and I sort of got a idea of the enormity of the kaupapa I tērā wā. So they were good days made, you know, I met Kingi then. I was Mātai, I was there when he did his kōrero at Aotea Centre, that was the Nationals.
Cool.
I didn't qualify that year. But yeah, lots of memories of manu kōrero.
I remember one of the manu kōrero competitions I went to, as a kai tautoko obviously, back at school. Mātai was usually the MC. Yeah, that was cool because he was also on Pukana too.
That's when he'd come along.
Yeah, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's Mātai from Pukana, oh my gosh.
Well, Hene where he was at, the one he spoke, he didn't win. He won the kōrero tēnei section of Korimako, but he didn't win the Korimako, but he won the kōrero tēnei, and then he went straight into a job after that.
Oh, wow.
I believe, but yeah, but you know, all of the grounding I got at the pā, and also that I got in Te Arawa. So it was a dynamic time to live at that age, being brought up in your own iwi, and then in Te Arawa as well.
Yeah.
So I think I got the best of both worlds.
Cool.
And just to mention too, you know, as a boy at the pā, because I didn't live in Te Awamutu, like most of my cousins lived in Te Awamutu, Hamilton and Cambridge. But majority lived in Te Awamutu, of the ahi ka anyway. There was a country bus back then that stopped at the bottom of the pā. And I remember the cousins still had to go to school from the pā.
Yeah.
So they would catch the bus from the pā to Kura.
Yeah.
And I would wait for them to come back.
Yeah.
See? And I would plead my mother to go to, if I could go to school. And I didn't have any mates because your cousins are your first mates.
Yeah.
So I would go, and that's how I ended up in the pai. And I'd be a Pākiki, and a Pākiki is inquisitive.
Yeah.
You know, I was never sort of pushed away and I loved stories, you know, and growing up with my auntie, my mum's second, the one after her, Te Uru Whakareo, who I refer to quite a bit on Taringa. When I stayed with her, we'd stay up all night. You know, she'd be talking the whole time till the sun came up.
Yeah, wow.
You know, this would be every night. And sometimes my kuyu would be there too. And they'd be smoking away. You wouldn't do that these days, but they'd be smoking. I'd be on the mattress. And they'd be just talking, usually to each other. I'm just listening.
Yeah.
And I might ask the odd pātai tamariki nei.
Yeah.
But it was enough to, you know, sort of feed the fire. And that's the other thing. There was always a fire at my kuyu's place and at my auntie's place.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's the thing with the fire. There's a wairua that comes. So, you know, that's why when people say, oh, you know, you were brought up with the old people, it wasn't sort of formal instruction.
Yeah.
It was sitting and listening.
Yeah.
To the kōrero tuku iho.
Yeah.
You know?
Nice. And not being pushed away.
No.
Yeah. Being included.
But just one thing I want to share about my Auntie Uru is, you know, she was a fantastic storyteller. You know, and my Uncle Johnson, and my Uncle Pua, they were all fantastic storytellers. You know, and some of that comes out in Once Upon a Timer.
Yeah.
I remember my uncle had me in tears one time when a story he just made up. You know, when I got older, I realised he just made it up.
Yeah.
But I believed it. But anyway, one time my auntie was telling me, it was a kōrero tuku iho. I think I might have been around intermediate age by now, maybe even early high school, maybe 13. And I te kōrero mai taku auntie. And I sort of said, Ko rongo ke au I tēnei kōrero. I've already heard the story. While my auntie went quiet. Hey, and I thought, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then she said, you know, e ki. You know, oh, no.
Oh, no.
And she says, you know, when someone tells you something, if you've already heard it, you just sit there and shut up. Because that kōrero they're sharing, they're going to share something new, or you're going to hear something you may have forgotten.
In a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of, not just rangatai, but even adults switch off. These days when they hear kōrero, you know, see an eye roll, or, you know, they get on their phone and things like that.
Ah, no.
Ki te kōrero tuku iho. So that was a lifelong lesson. And she's right, because many other people, not just kaumātua, that I've sat with and heard the same stories, my auntie is absolutely right. I've heard different things. I've heard things that I may have missed.
Yeah.
You know, the first, second or third time.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. If you listen to someone else tell you the same story again, you might hear it from a different perspective.
Ana.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to go back to your immediate whānau. You know, you've mentioned that your mother did use te reo. She sprinkled it throughout your life, her life. Would you say she was fluent in te reo?
No.
How come?
You know, my mother was told from a young age, marry a Pākehā, follow the Pākehā path. Ne?
Okay.
It was to do with other things. It wasn't just of this concept that there were some spiritual matters.
Oh, right.
It's probably as much as I can share why, you know, she was told to go down ki te moe te Pākehā. You know, she ended up with my dad, married my father. My father employed her. She was a rousey, you know, and she ended up rousing my dad.
Oh, sheep rousing.
You know, and a lot of my uncles and even crew and that worked for my father. And my father recalls the first time he went and met my grandparents going to the homestead that I was talking about and having the best meal he'd ever had in his life that my nan cooked in the fire. Now I'm talking about a fire, not a coal range.
Yeah.
So, you know, she had a oumu or a black cast iron. That's what she cooked in.
Those Dutch ovens.
Yeah, sort of like that.
Yeah. Cool.
And my dad, he was fully supportive. He never pushed me. He saw where my passion was and he supported me in that.
Yeah.
And I thank my father for that because, you know, I remember going through, particularly te wāiau I te kura tuarua, you know, some of my mates, friends and whānau saying that there was no opportunity, there's no life if I was to go down that path of te reo and te ao Māori and, you know, tikanga and kapahaka and things like that, you know.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
My father never said that, neither did my mother.
Yeah.
You know, my father was I tautoko I au, but my father had the most atrocious pronunciation of te reo. But the intention was there. He'd do his best to say, you know, I don't know if I shared, he used to talk about te kuti when I was little. We went camping in te urewera around te whaiti and he's talking about te kuti. And I'm like, ko ai a te kuti, you know?
Oh, te kōti.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Love you, Dad.
Oh, cool. That's really cool that he supported you in your passions. And look where you are now. So do you feel like you made a deliberate choice to basically surround yourself with te ao Māori, or was it just a natural progression being around your kuia and your other whānau members?
Well, I think I'm part of the choice. I think there's a whole lot of things, a whole lot of layers to how I am today, as with any person. But, you know, identity was a big one. So, iau e ohi ana. In primary, at the time back in the 80s, a lot of Pākehā schools had religious instruction.
Right.
We had a Bible teacher come in.
Yeah, I remember that at primary school. We had that too.
It doesn't happen anymore.
No.
And, you know, she'd have the sticky board and put all these things up and tell stories from the Bible, which I thought were pretty cool. And one day, one of the Bible teachers was telling us about how the Bible came to te arawa, and she kept saying te arawa. And I'm going, what is te arawa?
Yeah.
And at the end, she sort of said, put your hand up if you're from te arawa. And I remember the majority of the Māori anyway in my class putting their hands up.
Yeah.
And I I hane pia, I was dumbfounded. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And I went home and I was I te hanipi, and I waited for Mum to come home, and I asked her, Mum, are we te arawa? And she said, ka aore, I a raukawa, we tainui, and te me and your Mariah's. And I thought, I just had this epiphany.
Yeah.
I would have been maybe 8 or 9. And I said to my mum, why are we living here then?
Yeah. Yeah.
A whole lot of things clicked for me in that moment. Why we drove for like an hour and a half to get to our pa.
Yeah.
But my mates, they were close.
Yeah.
You know?
Probably live next door.
Yeah. You know, and then and I just sort of realised why we were a little bit different
Yeah.
to everyone.
Oh, wow.
Not a bad thing. And I said to Mum, at that young age, I said, Mum, when I grow up, because I thought, this is why we go to Taumutu all the time.
Yeah.
And none of our whānau live in Rotorua.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to move to Taumutu when I grow up, when I'm big.
Yeah.
So I think I was a part of that. If we had have been living in Taumutu, this is the other side, and I know, if we had have been in Taumutu, I would have been on that bus I was speaking about. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And I would have missed out on all those things that I got waiting for my cousins, you know. I would have been on the bus.
Right. You wouldn't have been hanging out with all of the pakeke.
Yeah.
Wow.
Learning the waiata, and not just learning the waiata, but the tikanga and things like that, you know.
Yeah. Ah, wow. Isn't it interesting how one change could have just catapulted your whole life in a different direction?
Ana.
Okay, so for your formal learning, you were in the bilingual unit at intermediate and then at high school.
Mm-hmm.
Following school, I know you did a bit of tertiary study. Where did you go and what did you study?
Me and a few others excelled at te reo. I kaua I tōku kura anake I e mua ko te kura Māori o puke tāwhero. So I think I did school C very early, school C te reo anyway. And then they just ran out of things to give me, and I ended up doing some university papers while I was still at high school.
Wow.
Which was sort of new back then.
Yeah.
I did 2 papers I au I te kura tuarua, which was sort of my doorway to go to Waikato eventually.
Yeah.
When I left high school, I had a bit of a tutu teaching kapahaka at kura with some friends. I went to Tāmaki Makaurau and taught kapahaka there. And then my brother-in-law Waru was good friends with Tāpeta Wihi, and that's how I got involved with the Wihi whānau and wakahuia, and ended up composing for te wakahuia. I was 21 at the time.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't until after then when I started uni. I didn't go straight to uni after high school. I was like, nah,
Ah, okay.
I want to have a bit of a, you know,
Yeah, I want to explore.
haere ki te parore, haere ki te parore.
Parore.
What a lot of people don't know is I nearly ran away with the gypsies, but that's another story. I went on to te whare wānanga o Waikato eventually.
Yeah.
You know, I got some life experience.
Yeah, cool.
And there's so many people, you know, that I met through my journeys. I didn't drive. I didn't want to drive, but I got everywhere in the motu.
Yeah.
You know, I lived by the philosophy, if I'm meant to be at a kaupapa, then the wāhingaro will provide a means for me to be there.
Okay, I can totally see how you nearly wound up with the gypsies.
Yeah. Or the first time I met Mark Kōpua, I bring it up to him every time I see him. He picked me up. You know, I was 18. And I hitched a ride with him to Te Kuiti.
Oh my goodness.
And I went to the first, and this is when, you know, moko was new as then.
Yeah.
Kotuku Tibble picked me up in Gizzy one time.
Oh, wow.
I ended up, you know, I got heaps of stories like that.
Wow. Okay, it's funny if you need to do some networking, just try and hitch a ride somewhere. You never know who's going to pick you up.
Hiki haiki, kaua e whakama. But it wasn't hitchhiking. I'd be somewhere, not like hitchhiking at the side of the road. I'll be at a hui.
Yeah.
And then the hui's finished. And someone's there, and then they're saying, oh, we're going to such and such kaupapa. And I'll say, oh, yeah. Well, I got my bag and my blanket. Have you got a seat? And I got some koha. And they go, yeah, come. And then I just jump on the car and go.
Oh, cool.
That's how I lived for a few years.
Yeah, just ready for those opportunities, I guess, eh?
Ana.
Okay, so then you went to Te Whare Wānanga o Waikato when you were about 21?
Mm-hmm.
And were you studying?
Major te reo and anthropology.
Oh, anthropology.
Yeah.
Wow. So is that anthropology, like according to Māori people, or just like around the world?
Oh, look, I had this idea it was going to be like Indiana Jones, you know, and anthropology wasn't all cracked up to what I thought it would be. But never mind, I got my tohu.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it's sort of given me some bit of a base to operate from in some of my mahi that I've done in museums currently. So I sort of know sort of the Western perspective on things. So, you know, there's lots of experiences. But then I met, you know, when I was studying Te Reo Hoturo Kerr was my pauako.
Yeah.
Wharehuia, caught the last of Wharehuia, Timoti had finished. There were lots of great pane actually. She'd finished. She was finishing and she was doing tohu paitahi. I didn't do tohu paitahi. So it was a great time to be at Whare Wānanga. And then my first job was at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa.
Right, that's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
So professionally, I would say you are like a highly sought after pou tikanga. Not just for your tikanga, but also for your te reo. How did you get professionally where you are today?
Well, I tīmata hau ki te wānanga hei pauako reo.
Okay.
So I started at te wānanga o te roa, and it's a tohu that te wānanga doesn't deliver anymore. It was te tohu mā tauranga I te reo, me ona tikanga. And it was a diploma in te reo Māori. And Leon was also, so I reconnected with Leon Blake. He was the tutor in Papaioia.
Cool.
I was employed by Lorraine Anderson. Auntie Missy Tupaia got me the interview to come in.
Yeah.
Came in, no shoes, because I didn't wear shoes back then. I had a big long dread.
I've seen the photo actually.
Yeah, so I was a te reo tutor, and then, you know, the wānanga went through its turbulent times, 2005, 2006, and my job was safe, but kāri pai te wairua I te wānanga I tērā wā, and I left the wānanga. I took redundancy, and I went and did some work for the iwi, well, for the entity, for Raukawa Trust Board, as a researcher, and I went around and put my skills, which were natural, I think, of that pākiki and being brought up with the kaumātua. We had an oral research project.
Right, is that where the TV show came about?
No, that was after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, so this was a project under our trust board, and I did the training with Alexander Turnbull Library.
Cool.
Koe te kuia no Ngāti Porou, ko Taina tōna ingoa. She trained me, a few of us, but it was only myself and another that ended up doing the mahi. And I got to do what I love, which was speak to kaumātua.
Yeah.
And pretty much, I think all of the kaumātua that I interviewed, and I don't call them, actually they weren't interviews, we sit down cup of teas.
Yeah.
And they call a yarn.
Yeah.
You know, you get them comfortable.
Those are the best wānangas over a cup of tea.
Yeah, it's sort of like what I wanted and have, I believe, recreated in Taringa. It's a he kōrero rero.
He yānanga.
Yeah, and that formed the basis for our oral repository at the board that we still have today. And, you know, that's one of the highlights of my life at the moment, was being able to spend that time with those kaumātua. All of them are gone, you know, but we've captured their voices on video.
Valuable.
I think hundreds of hours anyway we clocked up.
Yeah, no doubt. A very valuable resource for not only their whānau, but your whole iwi.
Yeah, and then I came back to Te Wānanga Aotearoa. So Doug Ruki was the pautikanga before I was.
Oh, yeah.
And he was leaving, and he, you know, says, oh, you know, you might want to think about this position, because I sort of wasn't a full-time employee. I was more of a contractor.
Yeah.
And I was still very, you know, I te parore haere au.
Yeah.
And then I started back at the Wānanga in 2008 in October as pautikanga.
Okay.
Alongside Auntie Ma and Huki Te Rangi, and Bentham was our pauhere.
So when you went into that role, what was the role of a pautikanga?
E rongo tonu anau I te reo o tō tātou whaia. She said, we are the conscience of Te Wānanga Aotearoa.
Please elaborate.
Well, you know, there's times, and I think we all do it as Māori. We have our anahera.
Right.
You know, it's like those cartoons.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably the best way to describe it. You know, there's old cartoons, usually it was Tom and Jerry, and you have the anahera on one shoulder and the rewera on the other one.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, the anahera talking to us is I call our tupuna sense. We know in our puku and our ngākau what's the right thing to do by te ao Māori, by tikanga Māori. And then the rewera, or the tupua on the other shoulder is telling us, nā hei aha, take the shortcut, or ne mai na tikanga Māori, ne mai te ao Māori, just do this. So I imagined when Auntie Ma told me that, it was pretty clear to me we were that the anahera, or the māramatanga, if you like to reframe it, to always be nudging te wānanga Aotearoa and make sure that we're doing the right thing, you know, by tikanga Māori and te ao Māori, mātauranga Māori.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the role sort of grew into, because I headed writing the Reo Ora, which was our strategic language plan for the organisation, which fell out of the report that Pānia Papa and Leon did.
Oh, okay.
That Te Wānanga Aotearoa needed a language plan. Yeah, so another role grew out of that.
Yeah.
But you know, mo te ao o te tikanga, ko whea ko experiences, that gives you true wisdom. You can't learn tikanga in a book. You can only read about it. You need to live it, like anything.
Right, okay. What would you say is more important to learn? Tikanga or te reo?
You had to throw one of those, Pātai, nera.
Yep.
They're both as important as each other. For some people, te reo is their doorway into tikanga. And for others, tikanga is their doorway into te reo.
Right, yeah. They do go hand in hand. I do feel though, like, if you don't know any te reo, but you go to a hui, as long as you know some, or you have a bit of a grounding in tikanga, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You could get away with it without knowing te reo. But I don't know if the roles, that could be reversed, going to something where there's an expectation of you to be a fluent speaker, but you're not. Well, you could easily get found out.
Yeah, good observation.
Okay, well, this time has flown by.
It has.
Oh, we might have to do a part 2 on this one. But to wrap us up today, since we're talking about pautikanga, do you have any words of advice or wisdom for people who are going into pautikanga roles?
You know, be honest to yourself. Me pono. Ka taea rāne e koe taua mahi he harawa rāne. I believe a tikanga role isn't one where you wing it and fake it till you make it. Not at all, because people are looking to you for sound leadership, and not just that. You know, one thing Afi Mai said to me, and I always say this, and she said, a good pautikanga is the glue that sort of helps hold everything and everybody together.
Right.
Ne?
Make sure there's no leaks in the waka.
Exactly. And everybody feels safe, you know, that they can depend on the pautikanga, and that their advice, and not just advice, but, you know, Uncle Bob Ngāpo used to say, show me, don't tell me. A pautikanga needs to be able to show what they're talking about, because there's no other greater example to people, so they're confident in you by you showing how to enact te ao Māori, tikanga Māori. Don't just talk it, you know. So yeah, walk the talk, but be a good example. You're a role model for te ao Māori, and a kanohi for your whakapapa.
Yes.
So don't belittle your position, and take it seriously, very, very seriously. And that's why I think, you know, a lot of pautikanga positions, I was looking at one the other day, not that I'm looking for another job, but I saw someone advertise, I'm not going to say who, and I thought, oh, you know, it's specialist advice that you're giving, and it's years and years of accumulated experiences, knowledge, and practice, and be a practitioner.
Yeah.
I think that it's an underpaid role in a lot of instances that I've seen. Yeah. Not that it's about the money, but I think that, you know, some of these organizations that have these positions need to be looking at the skill base and the knowledge base and the wisdom that's expected from one that holds a role like pautikanga.
Yeah. You just reminded me of something that was said last week too at Ako Araro. We learn te reo to be te reo practitioners. So we learn it to practice it, not just to learn about it, not just to write it down in books and stuff. We learn it to practice it. And I just thought that moment when whoever it was that said that something clicked for me about what it is to be a practitioner.
Exactly. No, and just to sort of go, because keeping with the matariki tēnei wā, the bigger picture stuff about matariki is practicing in the taiao.
Yes.
So, once, and I know everybody's sort of at different points of their journey in regards to matariki. Some have just started having their umukohu ko uwhetu. Some have been doing it for a while, but they didn't actually know what they were doing.
Yeah.
But they did. They wanted to acknowledge matariki, but now we've got a bit more knowledge around it. So there's more of it for us to unpack in the jigsaw pieces and put together and practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me about your life, basically. I know we sort of skipped through and there's so much more that we could have unpacked, but hopefully the audience have got something out of that. I feel like they would have. I feel like everybody wants to know all about you, Paraone. So thank you for being open to having this conversation with me.
Kia ora wātu tuahine mihia ki ana. And it was, it's a couple of times there I had to sort of hold back the tears when I think about, a lot of my mentors, teachers who aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
I've been given the gift. We all have this koha, a taonga that's been handed on to us, and the least we can do is keep handing it on. And, as I shared in Taringa, this was my dream for Taringa, for it to be, a conduit to sort of keep the fire burning when it comes to kōrero tuku iho and sharing whakaro. So e mihi ake ana kia koe I tō whakaro. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe.
Wa anei te waiata o te wiki no te kōpai o te kākano. And I think that's the name of the group too. So there's a A o there. He waiata nā te kākano, no te kōpai o te kākano. Oh, I'll leave that as a wānanga for you guys. And ko te waiata ko hikaia te ahi kōmau, ana ko perewi hongi rao ko Mikaira Berry e waiata nei tēnā whakarongo mai. Hikaia te ahi kōmau, because we've been having kōrero about ahi.
All right.
Mata e pau mai ana I te atata E kiri maheli ururora Whiro ki nei te hana
He mata e pau mai ana I te atata Poho kereru pakihiwi mai re He whetunga kanohi he Tuahanata Mo te whakawai Koe ake ia koe
Pororaru I te tirohanga
Mo te whakaware ko koe aruna Kanohoa Hikina He aha koe I kore ai e mene Me ko tera e kore nei e whiti He kaia tea hiko mau e ko whaka whiti ano tera
Kua pania oi mutu ki te taiho o te wā O ka moki ngā tai kita rawa Taia ana toa tahua
Tahua Me he anu he Tawa tawa he ke ana atota Me te rere o te hanga Ngangaro ana Mo te whakawai ko ia ke ia koe
Pororaru I te tirohanga
Mo te whakawai ko koe
You know, I didn't even talk about my little career that I had in a band for one part of my life, but I'll leave that kōrero. Engari e mihi ake ana, and tēnā rau atu koutou te kākano, and yes, he kaya te ahi kōmau. And while we're talking about te ahi, or while I am, there were times when there was this particular ahi, te ahi kōmau and te ahi tāmau, which was in the whare wānanga. And when you sort of got to a close, you would bury the motu ahi, or the kunga, which are the embers. And then when you're ready to start your kōrero again, you sort of dig the embers back up and you reignite them.
Oh yeah, the same
and
one.
That's what, and that's the nature of kōrero tuku iho, when you get people together around. So we're going to put some dirt over our ahi kōmau i te wānei, and then ka hoki mai ana tātou will be able to stoke it up again.
But so was there significance of why they were recycling the old ones? Was it to like carry on from that same kōrero?
Well, that one we will leave for another episode. E mihi ake ana e te iwi, hei ko nā mai rā. And you know, Erica, you did a wonderful job. E mihi ake ana.
Oh, thank you.
Tēnā koe. I enjoyed our kōrero.
Oh, ka pai. Anyway, hei kona.
Bit whakaronga pi kari kari. Gather up close everybody buddy. Taringa. Yeah, tahuri mai ki o. Whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing at the hook of force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds. Kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare mai, o Taringa hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body.
Taringa, he mea tuku nā te wānanga o Aotearoa, ā, nā te māngai pāho me irirangi te motu I tautoko. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe, or follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Taringa, whakarongo mai.